Welcome back, children. Next we are going to see some capacities and volumes related to the lungs. This is very important analysis for detecting any problems in the respiratory system. Okay, right. So the first volume is the tidal volume, which is the volume of air inspired or expired during a normal respiration. We are breathing normally, right? We are not even conscious of whatever you're doing, of whether you're breathing or not, right? So during this, how much our air is inspired or expired, that volume is called as tidal volume, TV, which is around 500 ml to, which is about 500 ml, right? Okay. Now the next thing is the inspiratory reserve volume or complemental air. Inspiratory reserve volume. Now if you go to doctor, the doctors will ask you to take a deep breath, right? So if you take a deep breath and inspire, if you inspire and expire, you will take little more of air inside your lungs. Yes or no? And you will expire little more of air outside. So that is called as inspiratory reserve volume and expiratory reserve volume also. So inspiratory reserve volume is the additional volume of air that can be inspired by forceful inspiration. And same way, expiratory reserve volume is the additional volume of air that can be expired by a forceful expiration. Right. Now when you breathe out, normal, when you breathe out, still there is some little bit of air remaining in our lungs. That is called as normal breathing, children. Normal breathing. That air which is remaining in the lungs is called as functional residual volume. What is that? Functional residual volume. Now what is residual volume? It is the volume of air remaining in the lungs after a forceful expiration. When you are asked to expire forcefully, when you expire whatever in the lungs you are expiring out, still there will be little of the air inside your lungs, which is called as residual volume. Okay, normally when you breathe, there is a residue, a little bit of air inside the lungs, which is called the functional residual volume. Okay, children, got it? Now you are going to see some of the capacities of the lungs, which is the first is the inspiratory capacity, which is the after a forceful expiration, how much air you can take in. Normally how much air you can take in, that is called as inspiratory capacity. What is this, children? Normal expiration, total volume of air inspired after a normally when you expire and you just gulp in air, forcefully you take inside the air, which is called as inspiratory capacity. Same way, expiratory capacity is the total volume of air expired after a normal inspiration. First one is normal. After normal expiration, how much of air you can take, that is inspiratory capacity. After a normal inspiration, how much of air you can give out is called as expiratory capacity. When you hear it now, you may be a little confused, but when you read it again twice or thrice, you will get it all very clear. It's very easy, children. Actually, it is very easy. Now, I told you what is functional residual volume already. Okay. Now, what is vital capacity? It is the volume of air that can be breathed in after a forced expiration. What is this? Volume of air that can be breathed in after a forceful respiration, or the volume of air that can be breathed out after a forced inspiration. That was normal inspiration. Expiratory capacity and inspiratory capacity was after normal inspiration and normal expiration. Right, this is after forcefully expiring. How much ever air you can take in. Same way, after forcefully inspiring, how much air you can expire out, which is called the vital capacity of your lungs. Okay. Now, what is total lung capacity? So, after a maximum inspiration, when doctors ask you to inspire, take a deep breath, right? So, when you inspire after maximum inspiration, how much your lungs can hold, how much air the lungs can hold is the total lung capacity. Okay, children? So, what is normal respiratory cycle? It consists of an inspiration plus an expiration, one respiratory cycle. And how many times a normal adult breathes during 1 minute? Nearly 12 to 16 minutes times, 16 times a minute. And what is the name of the instrument used to measure the breathing rate? Which is the spirometer or respirometer. Okay. Now coming to the gaseous exchange. Now where all does gaseous exchange take place? Between the blood and the alveoli, and between the blood and the tissues. Right, these are the two places where exchange of gases happen. Now in the blood, and what all factors govern the exchange of gases? They are the pressure or concentration gradient, how much oxygen, how much CO2 is present at that particular level for exchange to take place. That is called as the pressure or concentration gradient of the respective gases. It is also called as the partial pressure of the respective gases. Okay, and the solubility of gases. Different gases have different solubility level. You know, see, carbon monoxide has more solubility. If there is CO2 and carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide both at the same time, our blood can take up CO. It can combine with carbon monoxide. It has more affinity towards carbon monoxide. Okay, so it depends upon the solubility of gases. It depends on the thickness of membranes. It is also depending on the surface area of the respiratory membrane or the lungs. So we are coming to the factors influencing gas exchange. The first thing was the pressure or the concentration gradient. So the individual pressure of a gas in a gas mixture, in the air, you know, there is a mixture of gases. So the amount of gas in air is called as its partial pressure. Okay, so the partial pressure of oxygen and CO2, which is given as PO2. PO2 is the partial pressure of oxygen, and PCO2 represent partial pressure of CO2, carbon dioxide, is given as PCO2. Okay, now this one gives the partial pressure of all the gases oxygen and CO2 in the atmosphere as well as in the blood. Okay, children, right? And how does exchange happen? When does exchange happen between between the alveoli and the blood? When at the lungs level, at the alveolar level, what is more? And at the blood level, what is less or what is more? In the lungs, there is more of oxygen than in the blood. Okay, and more CO2 in the blood than the alveoli. Got me? Which is, the partial pressure of oxygen is more in the alveoli than in the blood. and partial pressure of CO2 is more in the blood than the alveoli. Therefore, with this difference in concentration makes the gases to diffuse into the blood as well as into the alveoli. Okay children, you got me there? Okay. Coming to the solubility of gases. Second aspect is solubility of gases. I told you, blood has more affinity towards carbon monoxide than CO2. Okay. Our blood has more affinity to carbon dioxide than oxygen. Children, it has more affinity to between oxygen and CO2. It has more affinity towards CO2. Right. So solubility of CO2 is 20 to 25 times higher than that of oxygen. So the amount of CO2 that can diffuse through the diffusing membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher than that of oxygen. Okay children, right. And the thickness of membrane. See this here it is this figure shows the diffusing membrane, which is very, very important children. Diffusing membrane. Now if you take the gases has to diffuse between the alveolar membrane and the blood. Okay, how many membranes it has to pass through? It has to pass through only 3 different membranes, which is the epithelium or the endothelium അല്ലെങ്കിൽ squamous epithelium of the alveoli. This is the squamous epithelium of the alveoli. Okay, and there is a basement membrane between them, and the epithelium of the or endothelium. It is called as endothelium. Epithelium is also called as endothelium of the blood capillary. Only these 3 membranes it has to cross. The blood, the oxygen O2 from the alveoli has to pass through the blood. Okay, so for passing it has to cross the 3 layers. Which are these 3 layers? The squamous epithelium of alveoli, the basement membrane, and the endothelium of the capillaries of the alveoli. Blood children, it's actually blood. Okay, these 3 layers altogether constitute only 1 millimeter thickness. All 3 membranes together constitute only 1 millimeter thickness. It is only 0.5 nm. Okay, 1 millimeter thickness. Okay, so this is the thickness of membrane. So if it is more thicker, it cannot, it will take little time to pass through to the other side. So that is why the thickness of membrane is also taken into consideration. Right. The last point is the surface area of respiratory membrane. Okay, the lungs, inside the lungs you find millions of alveoli. So this presence of millions of alveoli itself will increase the surface area for exchange of gases. Okay children, so that is for today's class. Thank you all of you.